Hari Bol, Hari
Okay,
Krishna.
thank you so much. Okay, so actually, I'm going to change the topic for today's class because when I saw the little brief that was given about this class, it said that I speak about women's empowerment. So actually, I've not spoken about this in detail, so I thought, why not? Let's discuss that. It's an interesting topic. And that covers a lot of these things which you mentioned, Mataji, about women being less intelligent or should not be given freedom, all these things which we hear in Shastra. So we'll cover that in some, not in a great detail, but if you are interested, then during the question answer, we can unpack some of these concepts more. So I've been very much interested in this whole topic of women's role in society, particularly because I had a very different idea about what their role is before I came to Krishna consciousness and read Srila Prabhupada's books. And it took me quite some time to understand the Vedic idea. So I did a lot of, mental readjustment. For that, I sought a lot of answers. And then because I did decide that this is the path that I'm choosing for my life, Prabhupada is our Shiksha Guru for everybody in ISKCON. So then when I tried to follow his instructions, then I found that it had a wonderful effect on my life, on my personal life and my family life. So therefore, I've been very inspired on this topic, and I really like to share it amongst Matajis, and I hope that we can all benefit by what Srila Prabhupada has instructed us. Hello. So I'm very grateful to you for allowing me to share some of these things. So let's begin with talking a little about women's empowerment, which is quite a commonly heard word these days, one of those buzzwords, and it makes people quite passionate. Many people are very vocal about it, and they feel very strongly about it one way or the other. So what we are told, what is empowerment? Empowerment means that if there is a person who's capable of doing something, then you give them the facilities to do it better or to do it properly, that they are capable of doing something and you give them the facility. So you're empowering them to be the best that they can be. So that's the meaning of empowerment. Yeah. How does this translate to Uchula Mataji? There are two people in the waiting room because I'm also the co-host. I'm getting that. So you'll do that. Yes?
I'll take care of that.
Okay, thank you. So let's see, in women's context, we are told by the society that to educate the girls and ensure that they get a job is really empowering for them. Because of many things, it gives them the independence to make their own choices. Why is that? Because people felt that a lot of the reason why a lady was bound to her family and her household was because she did not have financial independence. So if you want her to be free of the shackles of householder life, then give her financial freedom. So that was one way that the society empowered women. There was another way that there was a lot of expectation about how a woman should behave. And the next part of their liberation was to remove the taboos that were existing around how a woman should behave. So when I'm saying these things, I'm saying how people in society say it. So please don't misunderstand that I'm giving this as the right view. I'm just explaining what is understood by women's empowerment. So that was by giving them sexual freedom, by saying that it's not bad if a girl wants to have a few boyfriends. No, the society should not look down upon her, and there should be no concept of good girl and bad girl. If she wants to behave or live her life that way, it's her life. So there's this whole culture of being an individual, and just like men are given that freedom, just like if a boy has a girlfriend, they don't, in general, society would not look down so much upon the men, so why upon the girl? So they said girls should also be given that freedom. So these were the two things that primarily comes under the head of empowerment, which society tells us will really empower women to make their own decisions and better their life. You know, if you're master of your own life, then that's a better life, isn't it? Now, that sounds very good. Unfortunately, that's not exactly how it happens in practice. So Srila Prabhupada has, many times he would give interviews, and one of the things he said was, I'm just trying to pull out the exact quote. Yeah, because he started to visit he went to America, right? So he had a very sound understanding of Shastra. And then he went to America and he looked firsthand at what the society there is like. And Prabhupada says, actually, in the Western countries, at least, we see that women class, they want equal rights with men. And there is no distinction. But it is my experience, the woman class, they're not happy in the Western countries. So actually, this is what I wrote about in my book. You know, it says how I achieved real success. That's more like a caption to sell the book. It's mostly about how women in the modern world can get happiness. And it takes very contemporary examples. So I put in a lot of research, and this is all from Western people who are now turning around and saying, and these are women, okay, these are women who very much believed in the feminist philosophy, and they lived their life that way for a few decades. But at one point they said, no, we think we have been cheated because this is not giving us happiness. Why is that? Let's see. If you are giving them independence, then what is happening is they have to go for a job and they have to work, and that's not a lot of fun. You feel that, oh, it gives you financial independence, but that doesn't come without its own cost. Yeah, there's a whole lot of effort behind it, and so many things. There is stress, there's bodily discomfort. And we're not saying that, oh, women should be lazy and so that they should avoid going to work just because of the physical strain that it takes. There are a lot of other things also, that it doesn't give you time to be with your family or to take care of your body, because women are more delicate. They are more inclined towards being with the family. So you can't put men and women in the same situation and expect that it will have the same result. In the first place, one also has to examine whether for the men it's a perfect thing. You know, the women are trying to, they said, oh, let's do whatever the men were doing. So if a man is very competitive and he's just going after his work life and not really spending time with the family, which is what has happened now. Anybody who's working means they really have to put in a lot of hours of work. And then you want the women also to follow that. Hey, the men are not happy doing that. So how do you expect the women will be happy? So the thing that you're trying to follow is flawed in the first place. So what does that mean? Okay, somebody has to earn a living, right? If one person in the family does it, that itself is quite a strain on that person. And now you're saying that two people, both the adults in the family should be doing it. That will just create more stress. And anyway, the work that the men are doing, according to our Shastra, that is over endeavoring. That is already too much. The men themselves should be working towards simplifying their lives. So what to say of the women? The women, don't follow that example, because that's not a perfect example to follow. That was in the case of financial, what you have to do to get that financial independence. The second thing is, does it really give you independence? Okay, you get independence from hearing things from your family, because now, you know, they'll respect you and they feel, okay, she's going out to work. So if she says something, we should pay attention. It shows she's intelligent. She also knows the ways of the world. Fine, maybe that part. But now, instead of listening things from your family, you have to listen to things from your boss at work. So how is it empowering? Because at the end of the day, you're still under someone or the other. And in one sense, someone who doesn't really care about you much at the end of the day. You're just an employee. Still, you have to, you know, listen to them. Then you may say that, oh, but I can change my boss. I can't change my family. So for those of us who've actually been in the workplace, is it really that easy that you can just walk out of a job? If you don't like the job situation, you can just go and take another job. Most of the time, it doesn't happen, because it's not that easy to get a job at the same level or where you are placed, you know, in the vicinity of your house. Okay, let's say you do change your job. Is it a guarantee that there'll be no trouble at that workplace? No. So the working life is not an easy life. Okay, let's say a person is not working. What about women entrepreneurs who either start their own work? That's not easy either. And it doesn't mean you're not under somebody or the other, because then you are listening to the dictates of your clients, your customers. So you have to please them. So now you're not pleasing your family, but you're pleasing someone or the other. There would be a very rare case that a person is working and they are like really independent and not really bothered about other people around them. So that's your financial independence. It's a myth, let's be honest. Then the other thing, which is, I feel, the more unfortunate thing, because, and they're not wholly independent, financial independence and sexual independence is kind of linked. But okay, even if a woman is going to work, and sometimes one has to because of certain situations, it's required. So there are situations. But I think the most degrading part of the liberation, the whole idea of women's liberation, is that which sought to give them sexual freedom, saying that, oh, men are enjoying, so why shouldn't the women do it? So again, wrong example to follow. Actually, the men are supposed to be exemplary in their behavior. If they are not behaving properly, they are having affairs and they are, you know, from one girl to another, they are moving. So the women also want to do that now. And they want to say, look, don't cast aspersions on me. If you're not saying anything to the men, don't say anything to me. So how does that solve the situation? It actually makes it much worse, because at least earlier there would be a class of girls who were not considered respectable. So they would be having affairs with men and all. But now the society in general, if you stop considering that this is something bad, then there's no distinction. So if the men are doing something wrong in the name of liberation, you follow that. Is that going to give a good result? And how does, again, is maybe they are doing it, but when the women do it, not only is it a bad result for society in general, it is a very bad thing for the women themselves. Because this is where the distinction comes in, one of the major distinctions between men and women, which is what we take up when we talk about, are women less intelligent? So the answer to that is that if you look at intelligence in the sense of thinking rationally, then yes, women do think less rationally because they're more emotional. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's just the way their mental makeup is. That's how their body type is. So that's why when we hear Srila Prabhupada saying that women are less intelligent, sometimes we feel bad. But the fact is that these are some, what we say, facts of life, scientific things, hence proved, and like that. So you can twist it around and say that, oh, but women are also doing very well in studies and this and that. But when we're talking about intelligence, we're just talking about mostly, are they logical? Are they rational? So no, mostly men are more. So it's just like that. It's not saying that women are completely unintelligent. It is just saying they are more emotional. Now, how does that affect their this whole thing of when we give them freedom? That unfortunately they are open to be taken advantage of. And it's really sad when you hear, when you read about a lot of these from the hippie times and all this. There was this whole era of when there was free sex and this and that happened in the American society. But if you read about what some of the people have honestly written, that they've said that they just felt used. They just felt that, oh, how is this liberating? Because women, they want, some of them may have had the idea to enjoy, but in the heart of hearts, a woman wants stability. They're not after so much, lusty things. They want love and affection. They want family. And I read this really interesting article about there are these feminists who never got married, but through artificial insemination, they had children. So two of them, they're friends. And they went to the park one day. And they're sitting there on the picnic mat, and there are all these other families who have children and all, and they're sitting with their children. And they sat back, and this one woman said to another, and she said, "Oh, this is life. Like we've achieved it. We have children without needing men. We have independent lives. So they don't have any men in their life." So she said that, and they looked at each other, and they started laughing, because they knew that no, actually, we want men in our life. We do need men in our life. And that lady then goes on to say that women should settle. They should settle down. They should get married. And the sooner they get married, the better. So this is coming from hardcore feminists. These are people who took the ideology. They lived their life that way. And after many decades, they are now giving advice that we're not satisfied. It doesn't give you all that it promises that you'll be, very happy living your own life, and who needs men? There was a phrase that women need men just like a fish needs a bicycle. So this became very popular. In other words, that just like a fish doesn't need a bicycle, so women don't need men. So it's interesting, these kind of things that, for you and I, it may seem like, what? No, of course we need men. But sometimes people are so much ingrained by what society tells them that this is the way things have progressed in Western countries. And honestly, we should take lessons from them. So in my book, I've really only put in research by people in the West. Why? Because all of Asian countries, we are following that model. So at least we should see where we are headed towards. And then we'll sit back and think like, hold on. If you see the end result, then you think like, oh, do we really want to go in that direction? Okay, so that's the world we have today. But what do our Shastras say about women's empowerment? So I want to read to you from Srimad Bhagavatam. This is 9th canto, 10th chapter, verse 27. This comes in Ram Leela, which is described in Srimad Bhagavatam, the pastimes of Lord Ram. So this is a conversation which is quoted when Mandodari is lamenting at the death of Ravana. So she's addressing her dead husband. She says, translation, "O greatly fortunate one, you came under the influence of lusty desires, and therefore you could not understand the influence of Mother Sita. Now, because of her curse, you have been reduced to the state, having been killed by Lord Ramachandra." Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Not only was Mother Sita powerful, but any woman who follows in the footsteps of Mother Sita can also become similarly powerful. There are many instances of this in the history of Vedic literature. Whenever we find a description of ideal chaste women, Mother Sita is among them. Mandodari, the wife of Ravana, was also very chaste. Similarly, Draupadi was one of the 5 exalted chaste women. As a man must follow great personalities like Brahma and Narada, a woman must follow the path of such ideal women as Sita, Mandodari, and Draupadi. So not to follow the example of Sheryl Sandberg, who was the head of Facebook, or Indra Nui, who is the CEO of PepsiCo. Okay, these are considered role models these days. But what Shastra tells us, these are the exalted ladies. By staying chaste and faithful to her husband, a woman enriches herself with supernatural power. So this is women's empowerment. Then Prabhupada goes on to say how men should really respect another's wife as mother. Thus, Ravana was condemned not only by Lord Ramachandra, but even by his own wife Mandodari. Because she was a chaste woman, she knew the power of another chaste woman, especially such a wife as Mother Sita Devi. So, this is the Vedic conception of women's empowerment. What is that? Shyness and chastity. So this is very different from what we understand as women's empowerment. It's completely different, which is not surprising because in Bhagavad Gita, it says that the day of a spiritualist is like night of a materialist. So a person who does not understand scripture and the way he lives his life and a devotee, it will be different. It will be different like night and day. So this is no different from that what we hear about in society today and what our scriptures give us, completely different. They're saying, the scriptures are telling us, Srila Prabhupada is explaining that who is a powerful woman? One who is chaste and shy. What does that mean? Chastity and shyness, and Srila Prabhupada explains, and is given by Narad Muni in 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, that a woman's duty is to serve her husband. So therefore, this concept of chastity comes in. And why this is important? Okay, so this is, firstly, this is not only for women. For men also, this is explained that for them it is brahmacharya. The ideas of celibacy, that if a man follows brahmacharya very nicely, actually he becomes very powerful, very intelligent. And what is the meaning of brahmacharya? No relation with any woman. That's the phase of life before they get married, and just concentrated Shastra study, following the order of the Guru, and not wasting their semen. So then such men become very powerful, sharp in their intelligence. And analogous to that is for women, that if they follow their dharma very nicely, as it is given in the scriptures, then they become very powerful. And just see, here the example is given of Mandodari. So what to say of devotee women like Sita Mata or Kunti Maharani, that even she is not really a devotee of Lord Krishna. She's married to Ravana. but she's following her duties very nicely. She's chaste to her husband, so she becomes powerful. And Srila Prabhupada explains the import of the Vedas are revealed to her because of her chastity. And here it is explained that she is powerful just like Sita Mata is powerful. A woman enriches herself with supernatural power. How? By staying chaste and faithful to her husband. So why is this? Again, in another purport, it is given. This is 1927, where Bhishma Dev is explaining about women. Prabhupada explains, as far as women class are concerned, they are accepted as a power of inspiration for men. As such, women are more powerful than men. Mighty Julius Caesar was controlled by a Cleopatra. Such powerful women are controlled by shyness. Therefore, shyness is very important for women. So here's how the whole chastity makes them very powerful. Because the women have the power to delude men. Because they have this form which is built in a way that it is very attractive. So if misused, they can really delude men. So therefore, they have that power. But if they do that, if they go down that road and they delude men, then not only does it create havoc for society, it will not give them any benefit. On the other hand, if they retain this power within themselves, that means they don't misuse it, they use it properly. That whatever power they have, the strength they have, they utilize it in following their duties properly, which largely is concerned with taking care of their family. That's their first duty. Not that they will not perform any other duty. If need be, they have to do other tasks also, but this is their primary duty, which should not be neglected. So if that is taken care of, then they become powerful. How powerful? Because by their nice example, the husband is peaceful, the children grow up very nicely, and that's how society is formed. Society is formed of families. So if each family is like this, children are very nicely brought up with by their mom, they're given enough love, affection, and attention, and the husband is very peaceful when he comes home. So that's a very nice mode of goodness environment for the entire society. So that's how the women who are powerful can, in the sense of following their dharma, can really make a big change. That's actual empowerment. Empowerment is not giving women tools and, to ensure that they're out on the street working. But empowerment is to tell them what their dharma is, and then allow them to be peaceful at home and following their dharma. And such women are capable of changing the world. It is not that you have to be head of a big company, and without that you cannot have any substantial contribution to the society. They say, the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. Right? Because if you bring up nice children, automatically the society is benefited. So I read this quote somewhere recently on Facebook, these quotes that come up, that it's better, rather than working at something wonderful, it's better to bring up someone wonderful. So what a big contribution if you can bring up your children very nicely, if you can serve your husband, the elders in your family very nicely. That's a huge contribution, and we should never undermine that. Briefly touching on why women should not be given independence, so that it's all tied up, because women are they're gentle, they are physically they are more delicate, mentally they are emotional, so they require protection. It is not about restraining them or not giving them independence in the sense, keeping them locked up. That's not what the Vedic model is. No, the women have complete independence in their own kshetra, which is their household. You know, they run the household. They're like the queens. So they have their own independence. So it's just from the material, what is generally understood by independence these days. That's why, so when we say, why should women not be given independence? That's just a catchy title. They should be given independence in their own house. And if at all they are restricted, sometimes it's for their own benefit, because they require protection. They require to be taken care of. So when Prabhupada says that a woman should remain dependent on father, husband, and son, he's not saying so that they can control her and they can order her around, not like that. Prabhupada is saying so that she can be protected. He's saying for that women need that protection. So that's how we have to understand so many of these instructions given in the scriptures. It goes to the heart of what is the nature of the woman. That's how the scriptures are very scientific, because when they say who is a brahmana, who is a kshatriya, like that, they talk about the nature and what that person's engagement should be. It should be tied to their nature. So similarly, the duties of women are non-different, are tailored to her own personal mental and physical makeup. So it's not something that someone has just, some sociologist sitting in the ancient times decided, oh, men can go to work and women should stay at home. Let's see if this works. It's not like that. I mean, it always works. For centuries, it's been working, because that's how it's supposed to be. And that's how it works for everybody. And not just for women, it works for the children, it works for the husband. And that's society. That's men, women, and children. They make up the society. So I believe that this is how women can really change the world, by being home, following their dharma, and very sincerely adopting in their life what Srila Prabhupada has said, and understanding that this is non-different from their spiritual life. Because, you know, in Krishna consciousness, it's not that this, my chanting is my spiritual life and what I do during the day is my material life. No, once you accept that Krishna is my master, you mold your life, you want to mold your life in such a way that everything is connected to Krishna. So our duties are also helping us in our spiritual life. So thank you very much for your patient listening to a very long session. And I can talk a lot, because this is a topic I really think needs a lot of unpacking. There are a lot of things that are mentioned in our scriptures and instructions given by Srila Prabhupada that are sometimes misunderstood, sometimes understood to be not relevant for the modern world, or sometimes just neglected. So I don't think that would be advantageous to our spiritual life. Let's take some questions and comments now. Hare Krishna. So Ujjwala Mataji, I don't think I can access the chat box and be focused at the same time.
Yeah.
So if there are questions on chat, maybe you could read them out to me.
Yes,
Or if somebody wants to just raise their hand and ask a question, they can unmute themselves and ask the question. I leave it up to you to handle it.
Yes, Madhu. Already we have some 2 questions in the chat box, so we'll go with that. Meanwhile, others, request if you have any questions, you can type in the chat box. There's a Zoom ID type questions to me. To that you can put, and we'll ask questions to Mataji. And if you really want to talk personally to Mataji and ask also, you can raise your hands. That's okay, Mataji. For the first question is from Sita Dayavati Devidasi Mataji. She's asking, Hare Krishna Mataji, is it true that it is a male-dominated society for women? In a family, husband has his say and wife is submissive to him always. Kindly share your thoughts.
Yeah, okay. So So let's try to understand what it means by male dominated. So we see that we we hear this, that it's not good that the society should be male dominated, because then it's just the men who are going out earning, and the one who earns gets to say how life should be. So this is a recent phenomena, that it has become a problem, because now we are concentrating a lot on our material needs. So if if people in general are only thinking about making their life more comfortable, then the whole focus is on that. Okay, the whole focus is on getting a better car, better job. No, not better job, better car, better house, and the way to get it is to get a better job. So the whole concentration is on enjoying life more. And then the people who are, say, the head of the family, the man, he's making the decisions. And then the women feel like, oh, I'm not getting to enjoy. I'm not getting to make any decisions, because that's all that our conception is about what life is about. Right? So they feel, I also want to earn my own money, and then I have the freedom to spend it my way. This is a big thing, that women feel that, oh, then I can buy more saris, and I don't have to ask my husband if I want to buy some jewelry. Like, it's my money, I can do whatever I like with it. So the heart of this, whether it's male dominated or not, is with the spirit of enjoyment, yeah, or about wanting to be the person in control. But what do our scriptures say? Our scriptures tell us that the goal of life is to achieve love of Godhead. And that, yes, we do have to, life should be about preservation, but that's not the main aim of life. Yeah. So there should be minimum work done to earn a living, because we are in this material body, we have to take care of it, some comforts are required. But that's not the main aim. The main aim is to become a devotee and make our life successful. Now, please tell me, if you are in a woman's body and you're home, is that not conducive for your spiritual life? Or is anybody in any situation being hampered to follow the spiritual life? So if the aim is to perfect our life by being devotees of Krishna, then there isn't this question of domination, because this is an individual thing. So even if you are externally being dominated by some people, you can still be a good devotee of Krishna. So you can be perfect in your life. So that's one aspect of it. The second aspect is that actually in Vedic culture, it is not that it is just the outside world that is given prominence. It's like men would also go to work, but then they come home and they forget about their work life. Now it's become so different that, work, 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 job, 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 career, and designations, these have become very important to us. And only a person who has a good education or a high post, they are given respect, or a lot of money, these kind of things. So therefore we feel that, oh, if I don't have any of these, then who's going to listen to me? And nobody will give me any importance. So this is unfortunate. But if we bring in a culture, if we can't change the whole society, let's begin with our congregation or our small sphere of influence, where there is this culture that everyone who is contributing is given respect. So if a lady is at home and she's doing her things very nicely, she should not feel that, oh, she's being dominated and like that. She should be satisfied in her own sphere. And that's how it was in Vedic culture, that in the house, she gets to decide how the children are being brought up, or, the nitty-gritties of how the house is to be set up, what they're going to cook, who's taking care of the household help. everything. Like I said, that is her kshetra. So she's not being dominated really. The husband would give the pay, whatever he receives, little bit in saving, and the rest is handed over to his wife. It's not like this is his money and she has no say on it. It was never like that traditionally in Indian, or, if you go in any culture, not just Indian. All over the world, it was like this. So that when the man is working, then he gives the money and the wife runs the house. So where is the domination? These are like things which have come up now. Did we really feel that? I don't know, this is my experience. I didn't see the elderly ladies in my family feel repressed, or that they're not allowed to speak, or that, in fact, my grandmother was always nagging my grandfather because, he would sometimes work from home and he would spread out all his papers. He was an insurance agent. And then she would say, "Oh, again, you have messed up my living room." So I'm sorry, this is a false thing that Indian women are, they're always supposed to be quiet, and in their house they are like lionesses. They may be very respectful, and of course she would not be like disrespectful to her husband. In fact, never ever I have seen any of my grandparents fight, like a verbal fight, like back and forth. Never. So she's nagging, the husband would be quiet because he knows, okay, wife, she will nag. And if husband says something like, "Oh, some relatives are coming," and put them up, she won't say like, "Oh, they're your family, why should I, entertain them?" So many people would come unexpectedly, just come and then just stay for days and days. So they understood, they had an understanding of what each person's role is. So I fail to understand these concepts, at least for those of us who have seen this kind of thing. They are artificially being forced upon us. And we really need to open our eyes and see that where is the subjugation? Of course, I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. There are always nasty people who really like to control their family and their wives, and each and everything they will dictate. But they're few and far between. If the wife is very nicely conducting herself, then, and this happens in all families, that when the girl is newly married, she comes, then mother-in-law is very stern with her, and everybody is, kind of telling her what to do. But over a period of time, then she gets the control, because that's how it is. It just happens naturally that as she's serving the family, then the family reciprocates, and then they leave everything to her more and more. So it's a whole process, and there's a very, very nice way these things are done in Vedic societies. And we've seen bits of it in our lifetime. It was there, households being run very peacefully. No question of subjugation or male dominance. I mean, of course, they're making decisions. That's all right. And it's not that they are told, "Okay, this is it. We've decided. I'm changing my job. Pack your bags. We are leaving there." No, a husband would always discuss with his wife, "What do you think? I'm getting this opportunity. Should we go?" And like that, that's healthy husband-wife relationship. And she may say, "No, I want to be near my mom, and let's not go." Ultimately, the husband may decide, "Look, you're thinking from your heart. I think that change is good for us and our family. We're leaving." So he may take the final decision. But then the whole thing comes up that, okay, sometimes maybe they have the prerogative to do that because they're rational at times. Not always, but they're rational in general. Prabhupada always says less intelligent in general. There may be families in which the husbands are emotional and the wife takes the rational decision. So that such exceptions are there. But in general, this is what is followed. So that's also the reason why this, if at all there is male domination, that's for this reason. It just works. It works that they go out, they do the hard work. And the women do the hard work at home. Not that they don't do hard work, but they go outside, do the work, take certain decisions. But it's never black and white. that the men take all the decisions and the women don't say anything. It's just because of the nature of men and women. Women say it respectfully, which is true for men also. If somebody is talking to you respectfully, you're not going to be always shouting at them or being very stern. So it depends how we take this and how we adopt it in our life. We really have to adopt it to see the change it makes in our life. These are cultures we're not wholly unfamiliar with, but we've decided to ignore them, thinking that they are outdated. So we come across these in our Shastras, and we must understand, are they really to be ignored in this day and age? And if not, what's the advantage? Thank you very much for your question. I hope I answered it.
Thank you, Mataji. We have one more question from Rupavati Jahnava Devidasi Mataji. Mataji, you would like to talk? Yes. Unmute yourself, Mataji. Prabhu, can you give her permission to unmute? Yeah, I can. Mataji, can you?
Yes. Now you are able to hear me. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mataji.
Yes, we are able to see you also. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Your answers to the first question answered my question. Thank you.
Okay. I'm glad. Thank you very much.
Very good. Then we have one more question from Shweta Mataji. What should women do if husband is not a devotee and wife wants to follow devotional life?
And wife wants to follow devotional life,
Yes.
okay?
Yeah.
Then she should follow it. Of course, every living entity should follow devotional life. So, okay, let's think about the practical constraints that brings that situation. So if husband is not a devotee, but he is supporting her in the sense he's a good husband, at least he's providing for her and the children. So then there is nothing to be distressed about. They should go on with their life as a wife. The scriptures instruct us that she should serve her husband. So she should continue with her duties very nicely. And at the same time, she should go on with her spiritual life. This is true for all of us, men and women. Men also have to go to work. They have to support their family, but they want to be devotees. So how they have to, they need to balance their time. They may have to get up early to chant their rounds, or when they get a lunch break, when they come back from work, sometimes when they're driving or commuting to work. So how they also manage, they do fulfill their responsibilities. At the same time, they go on with their spiritual life. So similarly, the woman should very nicely serve her family and at the same time follow her heart and certainly make progress spiritually. It's a good idea always to get up early, and that's very conducive for spiritual life, to get up early and do your rounds. It may not be possible for women to do all the rounds depending on the situation at home. Sometimes the men come very late, the ladies end up sleeping very late, so they may not be able to get up before from a Brahma period. But whatever time they can, if they can do some solid rounds, 8 to 10 rounds before they start their daily activities, that's really nice. That will give so much satisfaction to the heart, and then you can catch up with your rounds during the rest of the day. When you're cooking, you can hear lectures. When you get a little time, typically after lunch, everybody's resting, you can take a short nap, then you can get up, you can read something, or just before going to bed. It's a good practice to put children to bed early. So if the children have gone to bed, your husband is still not come, or he's doing some work, that time you can do some reading. So there are so many ways in which we can go on with our spiritual life. This is in situation that the husband does not actively oppose it. You know, if he's neutral, but he is himself not involved in it, then it becomes very easy. She just has to manage her time and practice. Now, if there's active objection from the husband, then you don't want to do things that will agitate him, because if you get into a big argument, that will spoil the relationship, the atmosphere at home. That will make your husband more against the whole idea of Krishna consciousness, and there's less likelihood that in future he will come to devotional life. So I would highly recommend that if husbands are very against it for some reason, they fear, oh, our life will change a lot, and I don't want to become so serious at this age. So many objections come up. Then don't do it in a very strict way. Follow your devotional life, which does not agitate your husband, like when he's not around, then you hear lectures or chant your rounds when he's still sleeping, things like this. Do not bring up situations which will trouble him. So it's not that you can take this head on and say that, what's wrong with it? This is such a nice thing. It's difficult to convince because the men also, he must have had some reason why he's not favorable. So be patient, be very exemplary in your behavior. That will inspire your husband that, oh, this is a nice thing. But if that becomes a bone of contention, that, oh, this is a reason why my wife has started fighting with me, that earlier we didn't have so many problems. Maybe you did, but the husbands will just take this as the reason and just see, now she's opposing me, now she's questioning me, now she's forcing me to change my lifestyle. So it's not, men will not take it very well. It's best if someone else preaches to them. So if the husband is agreeable, you can hold programs in your house. That's always a very nice way. You can get your husband to do some service. Just say you want to, it's Damodar month, or some special program is coming, or my birthday is coming and I want to hold a puja in my house. Then he'll do some arrangements that will give him benefit. Then you have a talk by some senior devotee. So in this way, let someone else preach to the husband. Gradually things change. Even if they don't change, if you are able to follow your spiritual life, that you should be satisfied with that. I hope that answers that question. It was a very general question, so I can just give very general answers.
Thank you, Mataji. And there is one more question from Akhila Manoj. Hare Krishna Mataji, in your opinion, in today's world, what should a Krishna conscious mother advise her daughter regarding education? Should the daughter be compelled to pursue higher studies?
Okay, so I can only give you, from my point of view, we understand that what to say for a girl child. Even for boys, this kind of education is quite demoniac. It's not just the education which is a waste of time, because all that you study in school is not useful. You need to take a professional degree. So what's the use of all that? You may say, oh, but that's useful in your professional degree. How much? I mean, the 12 years that you study, please, if you go into engineering, you're just using a little bit of maths, a little bit of science that you learned. You're learning new things there. And you're not using your history, geography, English, Hindi at all. So a lot of that is waste of time in general for children. And for girls, you want them to be very focused on taking care of their family. The education is not just about what they're learning, but oftentimes it is about the association also. So for higher education, there are two things: that is it really necessary? And if it is necessary, then be very careful of the association that you're going to put your girls into. So therefore, I'm not in favor of sending our children to a lot of universities where there's free mixing between boys and girls. Sure, our children will not get influenced, but at the same time, please do not think that, I mean, do not undermine it or be very complacent that, it's not something that is something trivial. Actually, the whole world is running, Pumsam Striya Metuni Bhava Metam. This Vedas are telling us. This is the basis of the entire material creation, attraction between men and women. That's the age at which they get attracted. And you're putting the kids together and you're thinking, no, they will not have any feelings of attraction. How is that practical? Of course they will. That's the material world. Everybody has. So that's one thing. And the second thing, is it really necessary? I mean, how is it going to help them? in their life. Okay, you may say they need a degree. What if they have to work? What if there's a problem in the family? Okay, if that's what you think. Or sometimes people think that, who will marry her? They'll say, oh, only 12th pass. We don't want such a girl. Fine. If these are the reasons, then you may send your child for higher education. But just like to my girls, I make it very clear that they will get more happiness and satisfaction by serving their family. So if just because they have that degree, it is not necessary for them to take up a job. That's the idea I was brought up with, that okay, get educated, get a job. Everybody in my, not just me, everybody in my school, like, oh, what are you going to do next after school? Like, what's your career plan? What do you plan to be? So you can't say, I plan to be a mother. Everybody would laugh at us if we said that. It was always, I want to be an engineer, doctor, teacher, pilot, these kind of things. So, but for my girls, I tell them that no, it's perfectly respectable to be a mother and a wife. I feel very happy that I'm mother of Krishangi and Gaurangi. I don't need to be, I'm a computer engineer working with, Microsoft. That's who I am. Now that's it. It depends how you want to identify yourself. I'm happy to be wife of a very nice devotee, mother of such sweet children. So that's what I tell my children, that it's perfectly fine if they study, but it's not from the aim of that they have to work. That's their choice. That depends on the family they get married to, their circumstances, but it's not a given thing. They must work. No, if they do also work, they'll have to first take care of their families. If they can do that, take care of the families, take care of the sadhana and work, wow, they would be super women. I mean, women in the West are saying women can't have it all. So I mentioned the CEO of PepsiCo, Indra Nui. She made headlines because she said, it's a myth. People say women can have it all. They can go to work. They can, take care of their families. But they said they are exhausting women by saying that. It's foolishness. If you're working, forget about your family. Someone else has to bring them up. And then, women don't feel very satisfied doing that. So I would not like my daughters to go through that. They are aware of all these things. We talk about it. I show them examples of ladies who are stressed because of that. So if you have to work, please go with your eyes open. Don't think it's going to be wonderful, to have that experience. It's very mundane going to work. It's not very exciting. Sure, it gives you some money, but as devotees, what is the value of that money if it squashes your time for sadhana? So that's my answer, that be very careful of the association and please analyze what is the use. Sorry. Yeah. So I said, was I clear that it was about two things, that whether you really need it, and then also please be careful of the association that you will get during that process. Hare Krishna. I hope that answers the question.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. There is one more question from Alpa Mataji. It is said that we carry the qualities from our previous birth. Now, what if woman doesn't have inclination to household duties, like cooking and cleaning, but she has inclination towards things what the men have to do, like going out and earning? Is it that the women must mold themselves to the duties prescribed? And how to mold oneself, knowing what Srila Prabhupada Shastras prescribed? What are your thoughts over it? Kindly share.
Yeah, that's a very good question, because yes, it is true that this is being given, but sometimes there are some people who just, like I said, that you get a lot of satisfaction. So maybe there are some people who just don't get that satisfaction. They're not motherly, they have kids, but they're like, oh, okay. it doesn't come to them instinctively what to do as a mother. Well, that's possible. There may be some women who are like that. So the Vedic model does not prefer to give way to exceptions. Why? Because it sets a bad example in one sense, that if somebody says that, oh, I just don't, this is not my cup of tea, you know. And that's what happened actually. If you see the history of feminism, it started by a few ladies who were not saying that, who were not being domestically abused or anything like that. They were just bored. And they said that, oh, there has to be more to life than cooking, cleaning, and taking care of children. So they were bored. And they wanted to go out and have a more exciting life. But what happened was that this became the norm. So if you ladies who genuinely don't feel happy in those things do it, then because they have gone out, and women are very persuasive and vocal, and then they say, oh, this is wonderful, all women should do this. So then there are some women who would actually be quite happy being home, me being one of them, that I was told all my life that, oh, exciting job was this, that, I tried that, hated it. Okay, maybe not hated it, but I didn't find it was extraordinary. And then I came to being a mother and wife, and I loved it. I just loved being a mom. So for me, I was like, whoa, I'm glad I realized it now rather than later, or have regrets. So this is one danger, that if we allow those women that, oh, but she's not motherly, let her please follow her destiny. And the world says, oh, I mean, there's no harm if she follows her destiny, but then to glorify these women that, oh, this is the way to go, that becomes a problem, because she's actually going against the nature of women. And then she starts influencing women who are in that body where they want to, where inherently they would be happy being mums and, you know, just nice, respectful wives. Then they are influenced and they end up being unhappy. I know so many women who are unhappy working women because that's not their nature. But they've just been, you know, it's the thing they're following. Okay, got educated, then they got into a job, and now their lifestyle is such very opulent lifestyle to support it. They have to keep on working. It's very difficult. So that's one danger of doing that. The second thing is that, are you sure it's not your inherent nature? Because this happened with me. My sister, she was always very independent, working, all that. And quite late in life, she had children. As soon as she had her son, she was like, oh, wow, I love being a mother. And she had another child quickly. So that's the other thing, that when people say that, no, they don't have the motherly instinct, are you sure? Because maybe they've just been you know, brainwashed by all this society's propaganda, that's not a nice thing to do. I mean, that's just mundane. What's the big deal with, you know, cooking, cleaning? You can just get a maid to do it. You can hire a nanny for the children. You can put them in day school. That's much better for the children, because they'll be with so many other children and they'll learn much more, because there's a trained teacher who, you know, knows how to handle small children. Really? Do you think anybody can do a better job with your children than you yourself? And we are talking about very small children here, not the children who need to be taught like engineering level mathematics. What? Teaching them nursery rhymes, you need a professional to do that? So, sorry, this is propaganda. And we should be very clear about these things to see through that. We have to open our eyes and see through that. So fine, if somebody doesn't have that instinct and she doesn't want to follow it, if at all she follows a different path, then it should not be tom-tommed that, wow, what an achiever. And then the housewife, nothing. They're just, you know, taken for granted. So it sets the wrong precedent in society. Therefore, I think it should not be encouraged, or at least if permitted, it should not be glorified. And secondly, if there are people who feel this is not their nature, they should examine and see, really, is it really not their nature? Or maybe they're just being, as every human being is, that they want to be controllers. Maybe the same people, if they are given something nice to do at home, like they have this nice way of organizing things, so they can organize a wonderful Mataji's Sangha, children's Sangha, put their energy into it. They can be very creative, and they can get all the statistics, or they can help their husband with their work, if they're in the line of business and so on, while maintaining their household. So if there is a lady who is not finding satisfaction in just being, a good housewife, then sure, she can do something else alongside, but it doesn't have to be full-time work. It can be consultation, it can be part-time, it can be something innovative from home. So those are a few suggestions on that topic. It's a good question because it does occur to us, it does come up, and these are things that happen.
Mataji.
Thank you.
There's one more question from Radhika Mataji. In other yugas, Sita Mata, Kaikeyi Mata, Draupadi Mata, they were also engaged in some administration roles in their kingdom. So it seems women were working in those yugas itself. In this Kali Yuga, say for example, women were engaged in home occupation, like helping the family in agriculture or managing cows. So it looks women help the society, family right from the beginning itself. How should we take this in current situation when women go for work?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is true, that actually this is what a woman's dharma used to be, that she will follow the varna of her husband, of her protector. So first, father. If the father is a Brahmana, she's termed as a Brahmana because she's under his protection. Then whoever she gets married to, she will get that varna because she is supposed to assist. So just like a Brahmana, the Brahmani would also know the mantras. She would help in getting the samagri ready and all that. And if it's a business person, then similarly, she may also come to the shop and assist in something or the other. Or sometimes in poorer families, the wife would be cooking something at home and the husband would go door to door and sell it. So there was always this kind of, she could help her husband, and in that way she was also working, you could say. But it was always within the kshetra of her household. So even in today's world, we would find that there are many innovative ways of women being engaged if they do have the time and inclination to do it. If they, apart from like the children are grown up, she has a very nice sadhana routine, and still she has time on her hands, then she can do something extra, no problem. We are not saying it's a black and white rule that women cannot work, but as far as possible to do it so that her household, the life is not disturbed. You see, the way the work life is now, it's extremely, what's the word? Taxing would be less. It just drains you. There's so much demand on your time and attention that it's not just the time that you're in office. Oftentimes you come back and there's a presentation, so you keep thinking about it. You may not be physically working on it, but you keep thinking about it. And this is funny because my husband tells me that if I'm writing something, some article or something, then he says, you really get preoccupied with it. I said, why? But I just spent a few hours on it. He's like, but I know you're always thinking about it. So that's true. Whatever one is working on, one is mentally preoccupied with that. So that becomes a little hard. That becomes hard to do justice to your other duties. That's all I'm saying. That yes, there is certainly a provision for the women to contribute to the household income, or if she has interest to do it. But dear women, please be innovative. You can still do it without having this 9 to 5 kind of a very demanding job. which is really going to put a strain on you and the entire family. So consider that very carefully. That's all. But think about it. It's not a restriction. Think about it.
I think it's something related to this. One of the points from your answer, you said like a wife of a Brahmana is a Brahmani, and like that. Yesterday when I was going through this 9th chapter, 32nd verse of Bhagavad Gita, they say like Mampi Parda Vyapasritya. The Papa Yonayaha, and they consider this Stri and Shudra and Vaishyas separate. So there I had a little bit of doubt how the ladies or women are separated from the Varnas and why it has been given as a separate section, like, apart from Brahmana, Vaishya, Shudra. And also
so
that why it is like, a lower birth, it says. Vaishyas and Shudras and Stri, they are from lower birth, they say. So how we can separate the women's section from these Varnas and how to understand that, Madhiji?
Okay.
And how we can say it is the Varnas also specifically we call it is not by birth, it is based on Guna and Karma. So and then we call that Adhama Janma, lower birth, that women, Vaishyas and Shudras. So can you clarify that, Madhiji?
Yeah, okay. So there are 2-3 points here. The first is that why are they called lower birth? So this is from the point of view of, again, what is the goal of our life, right? So we understand that our goal of life is to develop love for Krishna. If one does not do that, then the human life is considered wasted. But what happens that in general, again, Prabhupada always uses this word in general, a man's body is better suited for spiritual life. So therefore, in one of the purports, Srila Prabhupada said that Puranjana, was it Puranjana? Yeah, in that pastime, that Puranjana got the body of a woman, and this was a lower birth for him. And in another purport, it is given that if a woman is attached to her husband, then she will at least get a man's body, which is an advantage. So why is this? This is because you will notice, even today, in day-to-day life, that men are more renounced compared to women. How is that? That they, for example, they can just have a very simple setup at home. They don't need like matching curtains with the cushion covers, or this color scheme is better. You know, me and my girls, we are always plotting and planning our interior decoration. And Prabhu is that, what difference does it make? We have these curtains, they look beautiful. So why do you need more or different? Yeah, it's a difference in how we are made up. And that's all. It's all scientific because women are made attractive. It means 3 means expansion. So all this comes with our body type. But what that happens is that it's more distracting. Where spiritual life is concerned, men are more renounced towards material world. So they are more likely to adopt a simple life, which is conducive for spiritual life. So not that it can never happen with women. Women will have a harder time accepting it. So that's one thing, renunciation. The other important thing for spiritual life is knowledge. So even philosophy, men can understand better because they are rational in thinking. And women also accept it, but more on an emotional level. So that's the difference, that in terms of renunciation and knowledge, men can do a better job with it, and therefore they can quickly make spiritual progress. So this is all comparative, okay? It is not to say that women cannot make progress or they cannot make their life successful. Never. This question comes up, that do they have to take birth in a male's body to make their life successful? No. Prabhupada has clearly said that everybody can make their life successful in this lifetime, and especially in that purport where he says that, look, Lord Krishna is so kind that even if a person is not really, even women who are considered little less rational, less intelligent, more emotional, but still, if they surrender, then that's it. Their life will be successful. Krishna will gladly accept them. So that's about lower birth. Lower birth does not mean that they are absolutely gone cases. See, it's all comparative. So we should not feel bad about it. Like, oh my God, they are insulting women, or this is humiliating to us, or it should not be misused. Sometimes men can misuse this, like, oh, you don't know anything because you're not intelligent, you're anyway lower birth, prone to sinful activities. No, not like that. Especially a woman who's reading scriptures, who's following dharma, that's a different class altogether. Because Prabhupada also said, he used to joke with Yamuna Mataji, about that one cannot trust a politician and a woman. Many times he brought this up, and she was around, and he would like look at her and laugh, and then he would say, what do you think? And she would say, yes, Srila Prabhupada, you're right, because they disciples of Prabhupada always believe whatever Prabhupada says, and we should be the same. And then at one occasion, Prabhupada said, but you're a devotee. So it's not that when we hear Papa Yoni and all, that anybody, firstly, who's following the scriptures, they are not in that category of sinful people, okay? But this is in general. If there is a woman who is not following scriptures and she's just generally living a life, then it is likely that she will be prone to be misled, be degraded, or just be very attached to material things. So it's unlikely that she will be able to perfect her life. That's the reason that this lower birth, this concept of lower birth comes in. So, and then why is she different from the other varnas? Because that's how women are, that they want family, they want the stability of a home, and therefore their dharma is to follow the husband. Now, if this would not be so, and if it is generally accepted that, oh, we have to check the pravritti of the man, pravritti of the woman, that's only required if she has to earn a living, right? Separately from her husband. So, oh, this Prabhu has Brahmana mentality, so he should be a teacher in the Gurukul, but oh, Mataji has Kshatriya mentality. So let her, or she has like, Vaishya mentality. So let her be a businesswoman and go around the world doing export-import business. So that's like, it separates the family. It's better, whatever the husband is doing, the wife follows. So therefore, she does not require to have a separate varna. And women's mentality is such that they are, if they're allowed to be women, if they're allowed to be feminine, they will be very happy to just follow. This whole idea of being very strong, very bold, but actually if women find a good protector, for example, when we are small, we're very happy that our parents are taking care of us. Wherever we have to go out somewhere, they book the taxi, we just sit and then we go and we are unconcerned. Similarly, if you get married to a good man and he's making all the arrangements, then you're satisfied. Why would anybody be agitated? So it's not a woman's nature that she always wants to be in control. She's not made that way, whereas a man is. So that's one difference. Therefore, there is no requirement for her to have a separate varna. And it's not a question of requirement. This is what Shastras tell us. And when we act on it, we will see how this is practical. That if a woman, whoever she's married to, she gets married. Firstly, while she's getting married also, the pravritti has to be matched. That what is her inclination, what is the husband's inclination, they should be generally matched. But even so, if there is some mismatch, it's easier, let her just follow the husband. That's why no separate as such. Does that make sense?
Yes, Mataji. One last question, Mataji. It's from Neelachal Chandni. Sometimes, as a mother, we become too much emotionally attached to our kids. also worried about their studies and other improvements in their life. Is it material to be worried about? How we manage all the things and go in spiritual path?
So it is natural for parents to be worried, both for the men and women. As parents, we have to worry. What we should really be worried about is their spiritual life. So as devotees, at least our focus should be education and all. Sure, that's just a life skill which they need to have to get by. But what we should really be worried about and giving to them as parents is to give them the spiritual education. And yeah, as parents, we should be worried about it. There's nothing unnatural about it. At the same time, there are, according to the scriptures, we understand that there are stages in one's life which have to be maintained, which is brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyas. So gradually, we also have to mentally prepare ourselves for that. If children are getting grown up, like my girls are growing up now, they're 12 and 17, and we are thinking very seriously about their marriage. When they are married and settled, then that at that time we do wish to be even more immersed in spiritual life and do more service and be more and more engaged. So that is a natural progression of life. It is all right to be attached. As parents, we must be concerned, attached, do our duty very nicely, attached, but properly, in the sense, give them Krishna consciousness. And second thing is gradually also learn to detach ourselves. So this again, difference between mother and father, because recently my husband, somebody was talking to us and they said, so when your girls are married, they again will visit you because they'll have children and this and that. And Prabhu was like, yeah, but not much. And I was like, yes, that would be great. So as women, we always have this, we want to be attached till for the rest of our lives. First it's our children, then it will be the grandchildren, and then, the grandchildren are getting older, then their marriages. It never ends, but it should gradually become less and less. Not that we become indifferent. We'll always love them. We are always there with them, but it should not be on a day-to-day basis. Then it's more of an advisory role. Then you do, because that is also useful. Then you're setting an example for how they have to lead their life when they grow older. So it's not that you're not attached to them, but that's your duty at that time. So attachment must be there, but at the right time, it should develop into detachment. That's what I would
Hare Krishna. Mataji, if you don't mind, just one last question from Saubhagya Chitra Mataji. How is soul is getting a birth of a woman?
How is the soul getting birth?
Birth of
As
a woman.
Oh, okay. So a birth of any living entity happens by two things. One is your desire and one is according to what you deserve. So it may be that you were in a man's body and you really were attracted to women. So you desired to experience what it's like to have a woman's body. So then you get woman's body. Or it could be that you behaved with a woman in a certain way and you have to experience that. So then it's what you deserve. You deserve that woman's body so that you can go through something, good or bad. It doesn't have to be bad. It could be good also. So these are the two things that any body, not to say of woman's body, man's body, or poor, rich, what it happens is it's a combination of these two things, what your previous desires were and what your karma has been accumulated. So based on these two things, you get your next life. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Prabhuti Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Okay. Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you for this enlivening one.